Hi, my name is Matthew Belisario. Today, my first episode of Pivotal Artists and Albums. Episode 1, Eric Clapton. Thanks for joining me today. I'm starting a new series. I'm calling it Pivotal Artists and Albums. A lot of people have been doing a lot of these videos, greatest albums, greatest singers, greatest guitar players, making lists of 1 to 10 and all that kind of stuff. And it's fun to do that. But at the end of the day, I thought, you know what's more important, or what are the pivotal musicians and albums that really change the way we look at music or listen to music in our lives? And if you're a musician, maybe the way it completely changed the way you played music and viewed music. And I'm a recording. I record my own music. I write my own music. I sing, play guitar, play a little piano, a little percussion. I was sitting around the other day and I was trying to think, what are the biggest influences on my life musically? Isn't that interesting to look at? And I think I'd love to hear your comments out there on not what the greatest album is that Eric Clapton ever did that you considered, but which album gripped you the most? Which album caused you to just completely change the way you view music? So that's what this series is going to be about. It's going to span many different genres, many different musicians, because I've got into a lot of different music throughout my life, and different periods of my life, different musicians and albums just took me in different directions and had a huge influence on me. So that's what this series is about. Why Eric Clapton for the first one? Well, a couple of reasons. First of all, he's one of the earliest people that I can remember hearing on the radio when I was growing up. I grew up in the 70s. I remember riding around in the car with my parents hearing Eric Clapton on the radio. More significantly, we had a small record collection at our house, and it was a stack of 45s about this big and a few record albums, maybe about 15 or 20. One of those 45s was called Let It Rain. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was on an orange Polydor label. Well, I don't have it anymore. I don't know what happened to it. But I remember about 7 years old playing this record over and over. I had no idea who this guy was. I was just sang along with the song, Let It Rain. I mean, I just was captivated by it. I had no idea who Eric Clapton was. But and didn't realize what kind of an effect he was going to have on me later on in my life. So very early on, he was one of the earliest ones I remember hearing. Now, fast forward a little bit. I mean, as growing up as a teenager, I collected all kinds of rock music, Led Zeppelin, heavy metal stuff, Metallica, Megadeth, all this different stuff. And started playing guitar very late in life when I was 18, when I was in the military. And I was playing a lot of metal at the time. But I remember this album coming out, Unplugged, and this is going to be one of the pivotal albums by Clapton. There'll be two of them. This one grabbed my attention, of course, the great MTV Unplugged series that would just really change the way people looked at the acoustic guitar. 1992, I think, release. And this would change the way I looked at the acoustic guitar. Not only that, it would start to connect me with the blues. Even though I'd heard the blues up to that point, really wasn't very significant in my life. So when Clapton comes out with this, of course, Tears in Heaven, and he's got several of his own songs on here. The big ones that caught my attention were the blues songs. And so I really started getting into this and actually loved this album so much. I used to go to the CD store and I picked up a bootleg of the outtakes and stuff that was on a bootleg double CD. But this one here, it now has, of course, official release here that has a DVD and 2 CDs with the outtakes and stuff on there. So that's how much I still went out and bought this years later when this came out. That's how much of an influence it had on me. But the big album that would really just hit me over the head and completely changed the way I looked at music for a long time was From the Cradle, 1994. I bought the CD when it first came out, and it didn't come out on my CD player for like a year. I mean, I listened to this thing. It blew me away. I'm listening to these songs, Blues Before Sunrise, Third Degree, Reconsider Baby, Muddy Waters, Hoochie Coochie Man, 5 Long Years. Loved it. I'm Tore Down, Blues Leave Me Alone, Sinner's Prayer. I went out and bought Ray Charles. As soon as I heard Sinner's Prayer, I went, who wrote that? Wow, I'm going out to buy that. Went out and bought Muddy Waters records. Went out and bought B.B. King, Skip James, the Robert Johnson box set. I mean, everything just switched. Now I was blues all the way. I'm going to listen to the blues, and for years, probably a decade, that's almost all I listened to was blues for the most part. I mean, I've always kind of been diverse in my music listening, but this really took me by storm, and I was blown away by it. And I was sitting down thinking the other day, I was like, wow, this record really changed everything for me as a guitar player. Now I wanted to play like Eric Clapton. So I was playing an Ibanez at the time. What did I do? I went out and bought this. I went out and bought this Strat Plus blue. I went out and I'm like, man, now I'm going to play like Eric Clapton. Blown away. That was like everything changed for me. It's like now I'm getting the Strat, man. I'm playing like Eric. I wanted to dress like Eric. I wanted to sing like Eric Clapton. I'm in my early 20s, and so that album just blew me away. And my blues collection exploded. Over the next couple of years, I bought everything I can get my hands on. I'm listening to Son House. John Hammond. Then I start buying his stuff. He's playing acoustic, playing Robert Johnson songs. I'm just getting into all these Buddy Guy, everybody I can get my hands on in blues. And my playing today is still heavily influenced by the blues, even though I've gotten into a lot more jazz over my life. But then what's another pivotal point is going to see Eric in 1995. October 10th at the Charlotte Coliseum, North Carolina. And I was, of course, blown away. I'm still listening to From the Cradle. The CD really has been in my CD player nonstop for about a year. And I'm listening, now I'm getting to see him live in concert. Absolutely one of the most phenomenal concerts I've ever been to. The fire that he played with. It was just absolutely phenomenal. And I wanted to sing like Clapton, I wanted to dress like Clapton. I wanted to get the same shoes. I mean, it was kind of crazy. But that's how big of an influence he was. And when I look at my guitar playing now, it's still very heavily blues influenced, as much as I try to add in other things, and as much as other artists that have influence on me to get me to expand my vocabulary and try to develop my own voice and things like that. And then of course later on, I'm grabbing the Clapton box sets and getting to hear him with Cream and all of his solo work with the Yardbirds and just all these different releases. And my Eric Clapton collection of course also grew. And so this was really a pivotal moment in my life, musically, artistically, the way I viewed music, the way it changed the way I looked at music. That was definitely, From the Cradle, I would say, is definitely going to be one of the pivotal albums of my life, and Eric Clapton's one of the pivotal musical artists in my life. And so I'd love to hear your feedback on where Clapton was for you. And I'm going to be doing a lot of these videos because I've had a lot of musical influences, and there are a lot of what I would call pivotal that just really grab you and change the way you look at music or the way you listen to music. And this is certainly one of those pivotal artists and pivotal albums. So stick around. We're going to be doing a lot more of these, and I'd love to hear your feedback on it. So Eric Clapton, episode number 1, pivotal artists, pivotal albums. We'll talk to you later on. We're going to go out with this a little bit of Clapton here playing. And of course, even all these years later, I had to pick up the live Eric Clapton, the blues. I think this was recorded in 95 during that tour, or 94. This is absolutely phenomenal. And 1994, this was recorded. All right, we'll see you on the next episode, folks. Happy listening.